Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. The session is about to start. Please take your seats. Thank you so much. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, dear esteemed guests, a very warm welcome to one of the highlights of this year's ISDB annual meetings. I'm giving everybody 10 seconds for the room to slowly quiet down and so we can settle in and start this important session. Once again, a very warm welcome to all of you, which is promising to be one of the highlights of this year's ISDB annual meetings, ladies and gentlemen. After the fulminant opening ceremony we had this morning, we're going to pick up from where that energy left off from and going to dive into a very highly anticipated fireside chat with none other than the chairman of the Islamic Development Bank Group, who will dive into the vision, into the plans, and into, of course, the works of the ISDB in the years to come. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome His Excellency, the chairman of the Islamic Development Bank, His Excellency Dr. Mohammed Al-Jasser. Great to have you with us, and if I haven't done so, allow me to introduce myself. My name is Ali Aslan. I'm an international moderator, host, and journalist, and I have the great pleasure and privilege to be moderating this fireside chat with His Excellency now. Now, of course, needless to say, everybody here in this room is very well aware of the highly accomplished CV that His Excellency is boasting. He has, of course, been the chairman of the Islamic Development Bank Group since 2021, and since then he has been leading the bank's efforts to promote sustainable economic development and social progress across member countries and beyond. So we're very, very delighted to have you with us, Your Excellency, while the last technical assortments are being arranged here live on stage. Your Excellency, before anything else, I think congratulations are in order. I just mentioned that you took over the helm of the ISDB in 2021, and we all know, and I think we can formally announce that you have been officially selected appointment for a second term. I think that's something I want to congratulate on, and something it speaks, of course, Your Excellency, to your track record, to the work in the previous 5 years, but also the trust of the member countries. I'm sure that's something that makes you rather proud.
Thank you very much, Brother Ali. And yes, I am not only privileged, but more importantly, I'm humbled by the renewal of confidence in me and the team that works with me at the Islamic Development Bank. It's quite a task. The governors have voted, so I guess they're not totally disappointed with me. They can tolerate me for another 5 years. Well, I think anyone at my age may be thinking about retirement, but when one bear witness to all the things that the Islamic Development Bank has been able to provide over the years, and particularly in my case, the past 5 years, then one realizes that it is a great blessing, in spite of all the the pains that sometimes one goes through to accomplish the things we accomplish, but it's well worth every minute of it. So thank you, the governors and the member countries, for their confidence in me, and I promise not to disappoint. I hope I don't disappoint any of them.
Inshallah, and let's give His Excellency another round of applause for this great accomplishment. of indeed being selected for a second term, another 5 years, where you can already add to the very strong track record that you have left behind. You, of course, you took over the bank at a rather difficult time in 2021 during the height of the pandemic, and you weathered the storm together with the team and the member countries, of course, I think, to look back at a rather proud record. And something that now has to be and will be built upon, Your Excellency.
Indeed, and actually even before I joined the bank, when I was at the central bank and when I was at the Ministry of Economy, I realized, and many did also, the importance of countercyclicality. So when the pandemic hit, there were some who thought that it's time to slow down, to wait and see, to contract. I think the governors and the executive directors were not of that thinking. They thought that when the economies are slowing down because of the pandemic, then institutions like ours had to be countercyclical and to try to counter those recessionary pressures emanating from the pandemic. Luckily, the team, the staff, the management of the institution were up to the task. So we really went countercyclical. We went forward. We chose action instead of inaction, and we have not only dealt with the pandemic itself, but also, unfortunately, it was followed by the East European conflict, which pushed prices of food, particularly for those least able to afford it. And we had to also come forward with a package that would help bridge the gap for those member countries who were in the receiving end of the hardship of expensive and scarce food.
Yeah, certainly no lack of challenges during the first term, but I think now that we have reminisced, if you will, and looked back at the previous 5 years, let's be in the present and look towards the future, of course. As far as the present is concerned, of course, we will talk about the numerous challenges that unfortunately we as a globe and mankind are going through. But let's talk about the country and the city that we're in here for the moment, namely Baku, of course, in Azerbaijan. And I listened to your speech this morning during the opening ceremony. It's very clear to me, and I think it became very clear to everyone apparent in the room and listening in, that Baku is not just a destination for you, but you have a personal connection to the city and country. Perhaps you can elaborate.
Yeah, I don't know what that connection is, to tell you the truth, except that I come from a caravanneering family background. And last night we were at the caravanserai, so I could not help but think of my forefathers. I don't think they reached this far, but that type of life makes the cultures very close, and the appreciation for the hard work that needed to be done to lift people out of poverty, lift people out of underdevelopment. And Baku, to me also, my relationship with Azerbaijan goes back to even when I was executive director at the IMF, when Azerbaijan and other CIS countries came to the IMF for accession to the IMF. And under instructions of my Saudi government, I went out and helped with the accession of those member countries, including Azerbaijan. So since then, and then when I became governor also, I came here for the last annual meetings we held here. Looking back, I mean, you don't have to be an economist or a sharp observer to notice that this city has been transformed. I don't remember anything from what I saw in the past, except I remember that the caravanserai, which attracted my attention, was very debilitated at that time. So to see it last night, and of course through my visits, it means a lot. Also, Baku and Azerbaijan shows the way for transformation and progress and not wasting time looking back. Okay, so Soviet era is behind. Now the people of the land are in charge, and they need to develop the country for the benefit of the generations to come. I think Azerbaijan, as represented by Baku, that all of us in this room have seen, shows that really the development impetus is very...
I think that's the president calling, thanking you for your remarks.
Usually I give my phone to my assistant, but this time I guess...
That's all right. These things happen. We're live on camera.
But yeah, this is the disadvantage of having a technology that
No, I think it's all the praise.
controls you instead of you controlling it.
I think it's all the praise that you have bestowed upon Baku, that all the good spirits of the city came calling.
So Baku then, of course, and that includes Azerbaijan as a whole, is really a crossroads of a community that has connected south with north, east with west, and has shown that development cannot happen single-handedly. You need to connect with your neighbors. These are landlocked countries. One of them is even double landlocked. And at this age, I didn't even know what that meant until I asked my Uzbek friends and told me it's because we don't have any access to the open seas, and our neighbors don't have access to the open seas. I said, my God, how are you going to do it? They met the challenge. Now they're looking at the alternatives. I went to the free zone when I was here in May and saw the cargo airport. A cargo airport developed just to help the exports and the imports of this country that could have been done if they had access to the sea, but they're not stopping. They're going for it and doing so. Baku represents so many things depending on which angle you're looking at it. And the best, of course, angle is really the angle of development. I think this country and this city are poised for real economic takeoff, and you don't need to go far. Just walk one of those streets near this conference center or near the hotels to know that something really constructive is happening.
Yeah, I think you spoke very eloquently about, yes, please. I think you spoke very eloquently about the fast transition and development that this country and city is going through indeed. I think everybody who's been here over the years can witness and can bear witness to those changes. You said it yourself, you came here as governor. Of course, the ISDB met here once again in 2010, many years ago. It was a different city. President Aliyev himself said it today. Many things have happened, obviously, since then. And I think it's very, very fair and very accurate for you to point out that choosing Baku as a host city, of course, undermines and underscores the crossroads of East and West that we are finding ourselves in here at the moment. A symbol of connectivity, if you will. And the fruitfulness, I think, of these conversations certainly bear fruit. Which brings me to the theme, Your Excellency, the theme of this year's annual meetings. It's regional integration for sustainable prosperity. Give us some insight. What's behind this theme? Why was it chosen? What was the thought process behind it?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, I realized when I visited the first time that the Caucasus and the Central Asian countries, after independence, found themselves in landlocked geography that is God-given, but they still have to deal with it if they want to develop their economies. And they've tried, and they've done reasonably well. But they also have realized that that's not enough, that they need to get out of this fragmentation that was dominant and may have been inherited from previous governments under the Soviet system. And they realized that integration is really the answer, because fragmentation is not a choice that anybody wants. But in spite of the geography, they have started to connect with with the neighboring countries. I think they have overcome all, or most, if not all, the political obstacles, and they've started transformational projects that not only benefit the country where it is, where these projects are, but also the surrounding countries. So you have the hydropower plants that are spreading in the region. So this is making the region rich in electricity, and also utilizing the water resources that accompany a hydropower development, and therefore agriculture is improved. But more importantly, that to maximize the benefits, they have to deal with their neighbors. And it may have been by necessity, but it proved to be a great outcome and the way out of fragmentation into integration. And when you have that, that's when it becomes possible to think, but also to realize the prosperity that can spread from here to the other member countries, and I mean from the Central Asia and the Caucasus. So the theme that we have chosen is really very relevant to the development model that has been adopted in this country, but also it is the model that other regions, so it's not just here. I mean, if you go to West Africa, you need that integration. And they're already started, and the Islamic Development Bank is helping with that also. You go to East Africa, you have that. You go to North Africa, you have that. You have the Middle East. Look at what is happening within the GCC. Look at what's happening, the power connections between Saudi Arabia and Egypt, and then in the future moving through Syria to Jordan, maybe all the way to Turkey, to Europe. So, you'll have the connections coming from here to Turkey and coming from Saudi Arabia to Turkey to provide Europe and others with electricity. So the integration as a model is a very important instrument that has to be captured and has to be appreciated for what it can provide.
Yeah, certainly. Regional integration, as you pointed out, really is the best defense, isn't it, against fragmentation, and in many ways the strongest engine for shared prosperity. And I think the ISDB, more than any other institution out there, and MDB certainly stands for that, with its 57 member countries spanning across 4 continents. You're active all around the world, and you've already mentioned some of the good deeds and important works that the bank is providing in those countries in order to uplift them in more than one ways. And the partnership, of course, the partnership amongst the 57 member countries across 4 continents is key, isn't it? It seems like they are natural partners. How does the bank foster that partnership? How do you promote that on a daily basis?
Well, we always at the Islamic Development Bank start from where our member countries end. So we are, but we want to continue to be the partner of choice. So we don't come with, pre-thought models and come in a condescending way and say, this is the way you should be running your economy. No, we start from where they end. We sit down, we share knowledge, because we will have been in many, many more countries, and we show how and what worked in some countries and didn't work in some other countries. But more importantly, to really convince the countries that they have to work with their neighbors and ensure that the advantages of their neighbors and their advantages are complementary and that they can capture them together. Because if you don't do that, then negative energy will set in, and then everybody will be blaming the other for the failure. But economic development requires level-headedness, very good planning, and that's why we start from where they end, and to ensure that the priorities that have been chosen are really what will bring great benefits to the citizens of those countries.
And it's really from, as you say, it's not one size fits all. 57 member countries, obviously, each of them in a different state of development, perhaps different set of challenges, but the ISDB very consistent in following and walking with those member countries from reconstruction to reintegration. Of course, then the challenge becomes not to leave anyone behind. That's something that you were very keen on emphasizing this morning. Perhaps you want to pick up.
Yes, development has to cut across social requirements and transformational projects that will underline the overall development of a country. So we in the Islamic Development Bank, we go to countries as far as Suriname and Guyana, and I saw the governors today. This is South America, all the way to Indonesia. Our Indonesian friends are here also. The challenges may be different, but I think the determination is the same. And each of the members of the bank, the 57 members, are eager to share the successful experiments that they have been involved in. So we have been able to bring together member countries to participate jointly in developing certain projects and even sharing some of the benefits that accrue to one member with the other members. So there is also what we call takaful in some form. And this is really very important as one looks at the issue of integration. Integration isn't just to build a building. Integration is to share values and share benefits. Prosperity cannot succeed if it only rests with one group. The more spread prosperity is, the better it is and the more sustainable it becomes. Otherwise, it will not be sustainable.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is where the work and the experience, perhaps more importantly, of the ISDB comes into place. Over the decades, of course, many patterns are re-emerging, and you know what knobs, if you will, to turn and twist. Now, President Aliyev this morning was very commendable. He was very complimentary about the ISDB's contribution to Azerbaijan's vision and road to success. Perhaps you also want to take this opportunity to speak perhaps in detail about the work that the ISDB has been doing and contributing to here in this country over the last few years and decades.
I'm really very grateful for His Excellency, for his kind words today, and for his confidence in the Islamic Development Bank. Since the relationship started, we have financed almost more than $1.3 billion of projects. But also now we are accelerating that pace especially after the liberation of Karabakh. And I have visited twice there to really see what is happening, and very impressive developments. But the first project, which is really a water and irrigation system in Karabakh, we financed. And now we have a very large project, more than $430 million, which is also in terms of rehabilitating all the canals to ensure that the water is well distributed and not wasted through cracks and through the old age of the system. We also are looking at other areas, including highways, roads, including maybe even railroads. So we're looking at transformational now projects also that the government is looking into and hoping to accomplish in the near future. So yes, we are very proud to be the partner of choice of His Excellency the President and his government and the people, and we think we can bring something additional to the table as we discuss these projects.
And it's very apparent from the words of President Aliyev this morning how appreciative Azerbaijan is to the ISDB's contribution, but your leadership in particular. You have been bestowed today the Friendship Order Medal here in Azerbaijan. I believe one of the highest medals this country can bestow. I think that's worthy of a round of applause to His Excellency.
Well, I mean, His Excellency the President and the ministers, they really have made me feel not only at home, but also humbled by this generosity and this appreciation. I didn't think that what I did was, beyond the normal for a professional in such a position. But they made me feel that I've done an extra thing, that whatever that may be, I'm forever grateful for that appreciation and that respect that I am getting from all of my friends here in Azerbaijan, starting with His Excellency the President.
Yeah, it's very evident that the gratefulness and appreciation is mutual on both sides, goes both ways. Your Excellency, you talked about the important work that the bank is doing in 57 member countries across 4 continents. Let's talk a little bit specifically about the role of Islamic finance and how Islamic finance makes these regional projects happen. Give us a sense of the unique financial toolbox, if you will, of the ISDB.
Yeah, that's the key word, toolbox. You need more instruments that could fit certain projects. So for example, Sukuk is a great innovation that was derived from Islamic traditions. It is asset-backed, and therefore it does not allow for over-leveraging. So those who issue them can only issue what is manageable and would not lead to excessive leveraging and therefore difficulties. But also, Sukuk can be expanded through taking the projects that have been completed and maybe either selling or mortgaging and then getting the proceeds and reinvesting them in other projects. The instruments that Islamic finance brings to the table makes it easier for some projects to be financed, because the Sukuk, since they are asset-backed, they can really issue the Sukuk against those assets and go forward with the implementation or the construction of those projects. But also they can be a good instrument of saving the sukuk. You have other instruments that are created for specific needs. I mean, there are different types of papers that can be created that are Sharia compliant and at the same time very suitable for certain projects in the market. We have been able to issue more than $50 billion of sukuk, including $5 billion that are green sukuk. And the demand for them have been very, very high. As you know, the Islamic Development Bank, because of many reasons, but one of them is the existence of such instruments, has achieved a AAA rating, which is the only AAA rating in the Islamic world. And thanks to our shareholders and thanks to our borrowers, they have been extremely supportive and making the bank able to receive that AAA rating, but more importantly, to preserve it, because preserving it is even more difficult than getting it in the first place.
Yeah, that's very impressive indeed, especially if you look at, obviously we live in a world where many MDBs, many multilateral development banks are lending their good work, and for the ISDB to stand out with its stellar reputation here, I think speaks for the work. And as far as the work and the impact, Your Excellency, is concerned, I know we can talk about the projects all day long, and it sounds perhaps abstract at times, but it's really about a people-centered approach, isn't it? You spoke this morning very passionately about what it means to you personally, but the bank as well. When you go and visit the countries and you see the impact on the ground to a farmer, to a young person, or to an SME, you know then that it's really working, isn't it?
We know very well that it is working because we have real examples. I mean, I didn't mention it in my speech, but I can mention it now, for example. I don't know if the governor from the Gambia is here, but we financed the road between two towns in the Gambia. It used to take 4 hours by car to get from one town to the other. We financed a project to build that road, and now it used to take 12 hours, and now it takes only 4 hours. So you can imagine the transfer of goods and services and people between these two towns. That is integration. I mean, so we're not talking about integration between different countries, we're talking about integration within one society. There are cases where one region is producing a lot of food, but it spoils because it cannot reach market, while the other regions may be starving. So this is why integration is a major theme, and you will find it across most of our work. This is an example of what happened. For example, Dakar, Senegal, there were very serious issues of moving people within that strip of the city. So we financed the subway. Within the first year, it was operating at more than 100 million people, operating at capacity. So we immediately started working on financing an expansion of that. Just imagine the mobility of people. What does that bring in terms of economic development? It is an enabling instrument of development. And you know, I mentioned life expectancy in some countries have improved significantly because of one hospital that is built in the midst of a heavily populated area. And we have done many of that. There is even avoidable blindness This is a very serious issue in some parts of Africa. We have done it even in a philanthropic way. We have ophthalmologists from member countries who donate their time to go and operate and remove those cataracts to bring people into productive life. So there are so many things that we are doing, and so many things that we can do also that will bring about more integration, but integration for more development and more prosperity. Because in the final analysis, we need people to have hope. So rekindling hope is very important in the process of economic development. If you don't rekindle that, nothing will help.
I think that statement is something we could easily subscribe to. Hope is a very valuable currency, not just in the work of the ISDB, but of course, generally speaking, if we're looking at world events, everybody here is very well aware of the times that we live in, Your Excellency. We're seeing major geopolitical tensions, many global challenges now. We could fill another hour speaking about those, but suffice to say, because you did mention the word hope, and I want to pick up on that. What keeps you personally optimistic in this very turbulent time that we live in? You've already spoken about the real-life impact that the work of the ISDB has on everyday people's lives all across the 57 member countries and 4 continents. But you read the same news that I do. You see the same headlines that I do. What's your source of hope these days?
Well, I think most importantly, most of our member countries realize that integration internally within their own economy and with the neighboring countries is paramount. So now I don't think it is so much debated. It's really how to go about it that is the challenge. So this is one issue that is important to mention. I think the toolbox for development is now very sophisticated, but also readily available for every country that wants to use it. So it's not something where there are monopolies that only a Western country can embark upon. We've seen countries from Singapore to the GCC to Turkey to where great developments have happened. So I'm more optimistic because we have the intentions, we have the toolbox, and we have the tools to really push the development process in our member countries much faster than we did before.
Yes, and if we're looking at developments these days, there seems to be, to picking up on your theme of hope, according to the headlines, agreement has been signed between the US and Iran to end that war. So, which of course has caused dramatic supply chain disruption. It has slowed regional trade. It has caused for a shock, economic shock, and in infrastructure, and of course all around the world. So those are of course good and hopeful news that we're getting, at least something that you overseeing so many countries and of course speaking to them about the major challenges, geopolitical and economic challenges deriving from those, that must give you a boost, hearing that.
It does, and I think all of us in the region are yearning for the time where the only concern we have is economic development. That's what we know how to do best. That's how we have been waiting for. Enough energies, enough resources, enough human lives have been lost unnecessarily. So we really at the Islamic Development Bank are gearing up to meet the good demands, let's put it this way, of reconstruction and development in our member countries. And I hope that is not too long from now, because it's about time.
Yes, inshallah. Of course, the ISDB is not a political organization, but political decisions have a direct impact, of course, on a daily basis on your work.
We're on the receiving end.
Indeed, indeed. And that's why the needs for cooperation, which you pointed out before, emphasizing, stressing the need and the desire for more partnership, I think is becoming even more pertinent than in this context of geopolitical tensions and challenges.
Yes, but as I mentioned also, I mean, the architecture is there for the development process, the tools, what it will take. I can mention one example why I use that word architecture. I remember in the late 90s when the G20 was being formed. And then we were meeting, I think Mr. Al-Bazi is here, he should be. He was the deputy from the Ministry of Finance, Saudi Arabia. I was a deputy from the central bank. And that's how, when the G20 was being formed. And then we were meeting, every 6 months we were meeting at the deputies level. And some people were getting a little, restless. They say, this is a waste of time. Well, when the crisis of 2007, 2008 hit, the G20 was ready. People knew each other on the level of governors of central banks and the level of ministers of finance. They knew each other on first name basis. So they immediately got to work, and they prevented a Great Depression, not a Great Recession at that time. So I think the architecture of moving into a viable integration model for internal development and external development, I think is there. We need to renew our confidence in our abilities. We need to put the best tools that we have in our toolbox on the fore, so everybody can use them. And we have to have confidence in ourselves also. I mean, we should not shy away from embarking on some great projects. And I think this country has shown its determination to go that way, and I hope that the rest will be doing the same also.
Yeah, the confidence key, not just for Azerbaijan, but all 57 member countries, of course, but something that is extremely pertinent. Now, I'm seeing here in the first few rows, of course, esteemed governors who are carrying on, and the messages stemming from this meeting back home. What is the one action you want the governors to take away from this year's annual meetings in Baku? When they go home, what is the one message, what is the one action you want them to do?
Well, I think it's different for different countries and at different stages of development. But as far as the Islamic Development Bank, I want my governors to go home with a reinforced confidence, not only in the bank's abilities, but also in its determination to achieve the goals of development that we aspire for as a group, as 57 member countries. Regardless of how advanced or underdeveloped the members are. We have, as I mentioned in my speech, we have just launched the Islamic Development Bank, the ICF, the concessional fund, basically to address the needs of the 127 least developed member countries. So I would like my governors to go back thinking, how can we help? How can we contribute? Some of them have already contributed significantly. Thank you very much. I hope the others will follow suit, because those are, as I said, prosperity. If it's not shared, it's not full prosperity. So those who are sharing, thank you. Those that have yet to share, I look forward to them to be to share. So basically, I want the governors to go back with a renewed confidence in the institution, and those that are in the borrowing position, that the Islamic Development Bank will be their partner of choice. Not necessity, but choice. So I hope that's going to be the message they take home.
And I think that's a message that is very well received here. And all the governors, all the members here, really all the participants are full of good intentions. But of course, it's important to turn those intentions into actions.
Exactly.
Right? At the end of the day, this is moving, if you will, moving from the speeches to solutions. That's going to be the key. Yeah?
And I've had, more than 20 meetings already with bilaterals with governors, and there is always on the table new demands, new projects, new aspirations, new ideas. And this is very important. This is, if someone says, well, why do you need these meetings? We need these meetings because when we get together, it's different than writing letters or talking over the phone or what have you. When they get together, they become much more open, much more ambitious even with their needs and demands. So that is the way to lead a development process.
And of course, meeting in person, there's no replacement for that. I think that's a lesson we've all learned throughout the pandemic. There's no substitute to being here in the room and meeting and sitting across from one another. You have just embarked today on your second term. Looking back at the previous 5, what is your personal goal and mission moving forward, moving into the next 5 years?
Well, definitely, I look forward to the bank contributing much greater amounts of lending and financing to the member countries in the next 5 years. We have already, I think by 2001, we had approved maybe around 1.5 billion. Now we reached 6 billion just in 2025. So I hope by the end of the 5 years that we will have more than doubled that also. And we think that what we do ourselves also will promote joint financing of great projects with other institutions. We have 10 MDBs that we have developed very good cooperative joint activities with them. I would be remiss if I did not mention the Arab Coordination Group. That's a very important group also. We have a lot of work to do with them. So we want to expand significantly our imprint in those member countries, and we want the economic development process to take hold in every country. That is our goal, and that's what we will be striving for as an institution. Of course, with the support of our governors and executive directors.
Chairman, being very mindful of the time, we're almost out of it. Before I go, of course, the World Cup is taking place right now. And I believe we have 13 ISDB member countries competing. I think, if I'm not mistaken, I looked over the list. Some of them have done very well so far. Some have gotten off to a challenging start. I believe Uzbekistan lost last night to Colombia. what is the next world champion going to be an ISD member?
Well, you're asking the wrong person about sports. Especially, I don't even have the time for it. But I definitely will support and go out of my way and wear the jersey of any member of this institution that will reach the quarterfinals.
And we're looking forward to that photo on the ISDB official accounts on social media. That is for certain. Ladies and gentlemen, I think I speak for all when I say it's been a great pleasure and privilege to listen to His Excellency, the Chairman of the Islamic Development Bank Group, Dr. Mohammed Al-Jasser, about his goals, about the vision of the bank, not just in the previous 5 years, which speak for themselves, but of course moving forward for the next 5 years. For that, Chairman, best of luck. I know everybody here is on board. The confidence of the member countries are ensured. I think the vote today clearly showed that.
Thank you very much, and I want to thank everybody for being here, but most importantly, I am most grateful for the confidence that the governors and all the other officials have in the Islamic Development Bank and in its leadership. And we really need not only their prayers, but we need their advice, recommendations, and guidance, because ma khaba man istashar, as they say.
Anyone who seeks, exactly.
So I'm banking, because we love bankable projects.
Of course.
So, so I'm banking on everybody's support and advice, and to keep up the faith in such an institution. I mean, can you imagine if we didn't have the Islamic Development Bank? We would be having these meetings just to see how to create it. So the founding fathers, to the founding fathers, thank you very much also for creating this institution.
I think one thing is for certain, lots of challenges and work still ahead, not just for the ICB, for everyone really looking at the geopolitical challenges that we face. But I think with you on board and the confidence of the governors, the ISDB is looking at a bright future. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in thanking His Excellency, Dr. Mohammed Al-Jasser. Thank you so much.
Thank you, but also thank you, Ali. Thank you, Ali. You have been a wonderful interlocutor. And thank you for your time and for your patience.
My pleasure, Your Excellency. Thank you so much, everyone. Appreciate it.